Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to break down complex info and give you the clearest picture. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're looking at the daily pulse of a community through its police reports. Think of it as going behind the blotter with the Peshtigo Times. So what we've got are two sets of official incident summaries. First, from the Menominee Police Department, that's covering July 4th through July 10th, and second, from the Menominee County Sheriff's Office, detailing things from June 19th through June 25th. Our goal here really is to pull out the interesting bits, the surprising details from these raw reports. It gives you this ground level view of what happens when law enforcement gets involved. You'll see everything from, well, serious arrest to just helping folks out.
Yeah. And what's really insightful, I think, is how these summaries, they might seem kind of mundane, right? Just a list of stuff. But they actually paint a really vivid picture of a community. You see the challenges, the daily rhythms, the sheer variety of what public safety deals with. It helps us look past just the big headlines, understand the fabric of everyday life in Northeast Wisconsin.
Okay, definitely. Let's unpack this then. We'll start with the Menominee County Sheriff's Office reports. This gives us that wider county view from June 19th through June 25th. So kicking things off on June 19th, deputies dealt with something pretty sensitive. They responded to a mental health crisis in the village of Hermansville. The report says a subject was transported to the hospital by their family for evaluation.
Right, and that immediately highlights something critical we see more and more. Law enforcement are often the first ones on scene for these kinds of social or mental health crises. It requires, well, a really delicate touch, compassion, but also immediate action. It's quite different from just traditional policing roles.
Absolutely. Okay, moving to June 20th. Things ramp up with investigations. First up, a larceny complaint. Dispatched to Hagerson Court. A caller reported items stolen from her place, so that kicked off an investigation. And it's interesting how these things can connect, right? While they were doing that investigation at a residence there on Hagerson Court in Menominee Township, deputies arrested a 28-year-old Menominee man. Turns out he had an outstanding warrant from the 96th District Court of Marquette for meth use, so he was transported to the Menominee County Jail.
Yeah, that sequence really shows you how dynamic police work can be. You start investigating one thing and boom, it uncovers something else entirely. Shows how, following through on one complaint can tie into these bigger efforts against crime.
And the warrants didn't end there on the 20th. Also June 20th, pretty routine traffic stop. This was on 18th Avenue in the city of Menominee. Pulled over for expired plates, but it led to the arrest of a 22-year-old guy from Tacoma, Washington. He had a valid warrant for failure to appear in court. This one out of the 95A District Court right here in Menominee. So he was lodged at the Menominee County Jail, too.
Okay, shifting gears to June 21st, a more serious call here. A deputy was sent out to a breaking and entering complaint. This was on Pinewoods Loop in Ingleston Township. They did an investigation, and the details were sent over to the prosecutor's office for review, maybe charges.
Breaking and entering. That type of crime, it really hits hard, makes people feel unsafe in their own homes. Setting as the prosecutor suggests they gathered some solid evidence. The goal is accountability, trying to prevent it from happening again. It certainly does. But not every call is that serious, right? On June 23rd, we see something more every day. A deputy was dispatched to a parking complaint. This was in the village of Hermansville. They checked it out, investigation conducted, incident closed. Simple stuff, but, keeping order.
Exactly. These routine calls might seem minor, but they're part of maintaining that community standard, responding to resident concerns.
Right. Now, June 24th brought some very current challenges, fraud and trespass. First, deputies were told to contact someone in Hermansville about credit card fraud. The caller found several suspicious transactions, was already working with the company.
That's happening all the time now.
Yeah, and another fraud concern popped up on Sabarin Lane in Harris Township. Someone got a suspicious letter asking for bank info for a loan payment. Thankfully, no money was lost there.
Dodged a bullet there. These scams are relentless.
They really are. And finally, for the 24th, a trespassing complaint on Willow Street in the city of Stevenson. Deputy investigated, warned the subject about criminal trespass, and closed the incident.
These fraud attempts, though, they're a big reminder, aren't they?
Yeah.
About needing to be vigilant, especially online. It's a huge challenge for law enforcement, too, because this stuff is often digital, crosses borders, requires a lot of public awareness.
That's a really important point. Okay, let's wrap up the Sheriff's Office reports for that week. June 25th was pretty packed. Started with a traffic stop on County Road 358 in Daggett Township. Reason was impeding traffic. This led to the arrest of a 44-year-old man from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Turns out he had a valid warrant. This one was from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections down in Waukesha. Probation violation.
Ah, so he broke the rules of his supervised release.
Exactly. The original charge was possession of meth. And on top of the warrant, he was also charged with driving without an operator's license. So off to the Menominee County Jail for him. Also on the 25th, a two-vehicle crash. This was on US 2 in Meyer Township. Reports say Patrick LeMade, 78, from Hermansville, failed to yield crossing US 2 from Main Street. He hit a vehicle driven by Travis Coughlin, 40, from Gladstone. Good news is no injuries reported. But Coughlin's vehicle had disabling damage, needed a tow.
Yeah, even accidents without injuries can cause major headaches, vehicle damage, traffic backups. It underlines the risks we take just driving around every day.
True. The day wasn't over, though. Another mental health crisis call came in from Menominee Township. Investigated and cleared, shows the ongoing need there.
Definitely a recurring theme.
Then, a threats complaint. This was on Willow Road, also in Menominee Township. That was investigated and sent to the prosecutor's office for review, possibly charges. And finally, deputies were asked to contact someone about threatening messages they got from an unknown person. That incident was documented and closed. Phew, quite a week for the sheriff's office. Lots going on across the county. Okay, let's switch gears now. We'll look at the Menominee Police Department reports. A week in the city's eye, covering July 4th through July 10th. So, kicking off the holiday, July 4th. Predictably busy. First off, some found property. Someone found something on the beach, down by the waterfront, 1,200, 1,300 blocks of First Street. Officers investigated and got it back to the owner.
Nice. Even on a crazy holiday, those little things matter, right? Returning lost stuff builds goodwill, shows the community service side of policing.
For sure. But then, things got intense. There was a high-stakes pursuit, ended with the arrest of a 25-year-old male. He's facing some serious charges. 3 counts of fleeing and eluding police officers.
Oh, 3 counts.
Yeah, and 2 counts of resisting and obstructing officers. Plus, driving a motorcycle without the proper endorsement. This chase apparently covered areas near 10th Street and 26th Avenue, and also County Road 577 and Birch Creek Road number 6. Talk about a dramatic start to the 4th.
That's definitely pulse-pounding. High risk for everyone involved.
No kidding. Also on the 4th, officers helped someone locked out of their car. This was in the 3900 block of 10th Street. Always a welcome service. And, well, it's a holiday, so. A 19-year-old male got cited for being a minor in possession of alcohol. That happened near Hattie Street Bridge. Plus, a 30-year-old male was arrested for violating probation in the 700 block of 9th Avenue. And a 29-year-old female was arrested for disorderly conduct and larceny over in the 700 block of 4th Street. So yeah, a very packed holiday for the city police. Okay, moving on to July 5th, more incidents involving intoxication and some property crime. Near 10th Street and 14th Avenue, there was a string of alcohol-related arrests. First, a 30-year-old female arrested for operating while highly intoxicated. OWI, super drunk, basically.
That's a serious one.
Definitely. Then, a 17-year-old male arrested for open intoxicants in a vehicle and being a minor in possession. And finally, a 33-year-old male also arrested for having open intoxicants in a vehicle.
You often see that cluster of alcohol offenses around holidays, don't you?
Yeah.
It's a pretty consistent pattern in police reports. Highlights those ongoing safety challenges linked to, parties and people being out and about more.
It really does. On a slightly nicer note for the 5th, though, someone found a man's brown Levi's wallet. It was returned to the owner, found near the 900 block of Doyle Drive and the 1000 block of 5th Street.
Good deed done.
Yeah. But then, back to serious stuff. A 44-year-old female was arrested for burglary and assault. This was in the 2300 block of 13th Street. Okay, let's skip ahead a day to July 7th. Officers were dealing with traffic issues and property damage. They investigated a 2-vehicle accident at 13th Street and 10th Avenue, caused functional damage to both cars.
Functional damage meaning they could still drive but look banged up.
Exactly. Visibly damaged but drivable. No injuries reported, thankfully. They also looked into a hit and run. This one was interesting. The accident actually happened around July 4th. But the owner didn't discover the damage until they got back home in the 2000 block of 16th Avenue. So, a delayed report there.
Happens more than you'd think. People come back from a trip, find their car scraped up.
Right. And rounding out the traffic for the 7th, a 44-year-old male got cited for speeding at 13th Street and 30th Avenue. Then, July 8th. Thefts and some youth-related stuff. Officers investigated a theft report from a residence in the 1200 block of 25th Street. Someone stole a black electronic bicycle and a black Huffy bike.
Oof, e-bikes aren't cheap either. It stings.
Yeah. Also, a 17-year-old male was cited for defective tail lights on his vehicle. That stop was near 10th Street and 48th Avenue. And then, back to the alcohol theme, Multiple arrests near 10th Street and 56th Avenue. A 17-year-old male arrested for having open intoxicants in a vehicle. And then a 19-year-old male, an 18-year-old male, and a 17-year-old female all arrested for being minors in possession of alcohol. The report notes for some of them, this was a second offense.
That consistency, especially the second offenses for minors and alcohol, that signals maybe a deeper issue, right? It's not just about enforcement then. It points towards needing maybe more prevention efforts, understanding why this keeps happening with young people.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. Okay, July 9th. Pretty straightforward. Minor accidents and warrants. Officers investigated a report of a vehicle backing into a parked car. Minor damage, no injuries, near 16th Avenue and 13th Street. And a 34-year-old male was arrested on a bench warrant. That's a warrant straight from a judge, right?
Usually for failing to show up for court, yeah.
Right. This one was through the Menominee County Sheriff's Office, but the arrest happened near 8th Avenue and 10th Street in the city. Okay, finally, let's wrap up the Menominee Police Week with July 10th. Had some really unusual stuff and some very typical stuff involving vehicles. First, the genuinely bizarre one. Officers investigated a report, get this, of a boat that flew off its trailer while being towed.
Flew off, like airborne.
Apparently. The report says the boat then hit a power pole, actually caused the pole to lean. This was in the 3400 block of 10th Street. Amazingly, no injuries were reported.
Wow, you don't hear that every day. Must have been quite a scene.
I'd imagine so. And then finally, a more common incident. Officers investigated a vehicle hitting a parked vehicle. No injuries reported there either in the 1400 block of 13th Street.
Wow. Okay, so we've just gone through quite a detailed look at the daily grind for law enforcement in both the city of Menominee and the wider Menominee County. We've seen everything, haven't we? High-speed chases, burglaries, mental health calls, those constant fraud attempts, and yeah, even a flying boat. It really just hammers home the incredible variety, the unpredictability of the calls our officers and deputies handle day in, day out.
Absolutely. And if you kind of zoom out and connect the dots, these weekly summaries, they give you this remarkably detailed snapshot of community life in Northeast Wisconsin. It shows public safety is so much more than just reacting to major crimes. It's helping with lockouts, dealing with social issues, managing traffic, handling neighbor disputes. The whole spectrum, seeing it laid out like this, it really helps you understand those hidden rhythms, the ongoing challenges that shape everyday life here. Gives you a perspective you definitely don't get just from the headlines. It really does. It makes you think, what do these patterns, week after week, tell us about the underlying pulse of the community? And how does knowing these details maybe change how you see things day to day?